so much of those intangibles that we bring to the table are very opaque to the consumer. But
Yeah.
do you have a way to look at, like, how do I value my leadership skills? What dollar amount do I put to that? Do you have any input on that?
This is the Fearless Pricing Podcast, where we meet and talk about real life pricing experience. I'm your host, Filip Fucic.
Pricing is hard. This is a podcast for fearless professionals and those who would like to feel that way. It's an unfortunate truth that most service pricing is created using either guesswork or copying other people's guesswork. Hello, and welcome back to the Fearless Pricing Podcast. Today we have Heather Chavin, and Heather is a founder and CEO of GoGo Done. She does freelance content marketing and runs productivity and marketing community for creatives. The community works side by side in co-working sessions, sprints, and premium community for audience building. She has over 15 years in marketing and coaching and a background in mental health. Heather, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Philip.
So jump right to it. Tell us your story. What's your what I
Okay.
should have charged?
My what I should have charged story, which I actually don't even have the answer to, but I know exactly how to do it wrong. So that would be my story. So
Perfect.
I wanted a community of creatives that was a better match for my personality than the entity that I was working for. So just wonderful people there, but just not where I wanted to be in terms of driving for continuing education and a lot of other things. Just a slight personality shift that I was looking for my own personal professional development community. I began to play around in an alumni community from Seth Godin. Seth Godin had an alumni community if you took one of his courses. So it
Cool.
was a great playground to play in. I started to build some community, and when COVID hit, I got laid off and took that community and launched it as an attempt at a moneymaker. And the big kind of struggle for me was, first of all, people were learning what co-working was. We'd been doing it for a while, but the kind of onboarding and the coming to the sessions and bringing your face and all of that, this was not like a mass market appeal kind of thing. Folks were looking at it and dabbling, but to show up and the way I was running it was about community and about connection and having everyone's faces there. So on the one hand, I'm struggling to market it and to get people to come in and do it because I had really chosen a niche market that was really hard to get to if I didn't have the Seth Godin community feeding them in. I had that for a long time, but he closed his community. And then what, right? He was my free marketing, right? He was filtering the wide world of everyone into this niche market that then I could pick from and find the people who are like, yes, I'll put my face out there. Yes, I want to build community. Yes, I want to connect. I lost my gravy train of that niche market. It dried up, and now I'm marketing to the general public who is afraid to put their face on on average, right? It's like showing up to the cocktail party alone. Everyone is just like, what do I do? We have a world full of wallflowers as opposed to social butterflies. So I'm looking for these social butterflies, but I don't really have a budget. And of course, it started free because I was experimenting in this alumni community based on generosity. If you follow Seth Godin, any of the marketers out there will know his message around generosity,
Yeah.
right? So as I transitioned, I went from free and grandfathered all my folks in and then had to start charging. And I chose a really low price point of like $10 a month. And then I think at some point I bumped it up to 20. But along the way, the biggest mistake, well, there's layers of mistakes. So the biggest mistake I made was all around moving from free beta testing into payment. And when you start low, to make the case that people should pay a premium when they were paying nothing or $10 a month is an incredibly difficult leap to take. You
Yeah.
have too many people, especially in a community, you have too many people who got it for free who are like, look, it's great. I love it. I show up every day, but you want me to pay how much to do what? And it's co-working. You're not providing a direct service. I, of course, had a hard time looking at the work that I had done to build a very intentional community and to set a lot of norms and to create a psychologically safe space and all of these other
Hmm.
things, which I was like, because they weren't like a deliverable of 10 social media posts or whatever, I'm like, well, that's not real work, or that doesn't really count. It's like putting a dollar sign on leadership. I have great leadership skills, but I don't know how to charge for them. You can't, it's not a deliverable, right? So all of these wonderful skills that I have that I put into there, the culture creation, the leadership, all the intervening, dealing with complaints, and all of these things that are incredibly high level skills that people pay $1 bajillion for, I was like, well, that doesn't count. So undervaluing myself and what I contributed, not selling those aspects or putting that into the dollar amount, and starting at the free level and trying to make that transition. The other layer that was personally a big mistake for me, so for some people this would be an issue, some people it wouldn't. I was involved in my community and a part of my community, which I think is a great thing because you know your customer incredibly well and you're getting feedback from your customer all the time, because I was in co-working sessions with them and asking them questions and they were giving me feedback and all of that. Well, these people became my friends and I cannot charge them. I can't charge them. I love these people. The people who show up on a regular basis all the time, we have become friends, and charging them began to feel just like gross. It's like if my mom wanted to come, I'd be like, well, Mom, you better pay me $20 a month. I can't do that. It's not going to happen. So that for me was a personal thing. Other people are maybe more detached, or they started from a different place, or they're just different humans. But for me, as soon as that close relationship is built, the money feels very difficult for me, which is already difficult for me. So let's take something I'm already kind of crappy at, which is pricing and asking for money and selling, right? And let's add a whole other layer on there. So there's my parade of mistakes. I have since made the community free and moved go done money making side of things back into the freelance marketing, where I am more comfortable charging because I have that clear outcome that I can produce in terms of marketing collaterals for clients.
Thank you. The point of this show is to share the mistakes so that people can see that they're not alone. And I think you just hit many people over the head.
Yeah, I hit
Right?
all the mistakes.
Oh, yeah, I did that. So charging friends, not counting things that are not deliverables, starting very low and then trying to double it, which is like knifing people in the eye. So I did all of that. Don't get me wrong, all of it. This was really familiar. So thank you.
Of
Thank
course.
you. So it's not a contest. If it is, you win.
Is there prize money associated with that?
Look, generosity is a great thing. And I really do appreciate Seth Godin and his message. It's a hard mix with feeling like your time is validated in a way, right? Because
Right.
you can feel the value of the leadership, of the rules. This well regulated community seems expensive. Have you tried an unregulated online community? Yeah, that's basically free. And I mean that $10, $20, whatever. So making the community free, and then it's a way. It's a way in which you can do that. And I mean, people saw you experimenting it. It's probably fine. We tend to be harsh on each other when it goes, because of course you should be born with pricing skills. I mean, it's literally my luck that people are not born with that, right? I wouldn't have anything to do.
Right.
But I acquired them by blundering into things. Yes, I fully understand where you're coming from. I hired friends. I also had to fire them when the company was going under, my first company. I had to fire a guy that I've sat with on all university, and we both knew that I had to, because that was our deal. He had a bad break with a bank, and he said, hire me, I'll earn my salary in 2 months. 8 months later, he wasn't able to do it. It was not his fault. It was the financial crisis.
Oh.
And we both knew that I had to do this. And we both agreed, and we're in best relationship even today. He later came to my wedding. It's fine. But I didn't sleep for 3 days.
Right.
After I did that, it was a completely miserable experience. Yeah. Also, charging friends, doing business with friends. It can be great. It's usually not. And I actually started my community, which is called a Price Club, which is somewhere between a book club and a fight club. So you can talk, but not about discounts. I started it because once I got close to a client, and I work with somebody for 2 months, you get close. I kept answering their questions when they had doubts and something. And then they stopped asking because they're good people and they're not trying to milk me. I paid this dude like 3 months ago, and he's still answering my questions. And how can I not? Right. So the solution came as a community that is paid, so that they know they're still paying me. They're not paying me a lot, but they're paying me something. And now they still have access to me and they still ask me stuff. And this is now more natural. But
Right.
I was completely surprised. So I do this, right? I do pricing. This is my thing, right? You
Hmm.
do your media stuff. I do this, right? And I was still surprised when a couple of people in a row, when I said, I'm starting a community, so that I realized you stopped asking me because you feel bad. I realized that I'm offering this, and they said, "Oh, thank God." I was I was completely wrong, completely 100% wrong. That that this would be a bad thing. No, they couldn't really put the price on it. They couldn't really say, well, if I pay you something, is it then okay to? It was something that people wanted, but nobody wanted to tell me that.
Right.
And
And
yeah,
they may
so
not have known. They may not have been able to express it that way, right? They kind
absolutely,
of knew what was going on, but they didn't see it as a problem that they could solve by proposing something to you. They just saw a blocked door and then went another route. So that you were connected with them and understood what was going on, right? That's where being connected to that customer and understanding what's going on with them and what their pain points are, right? So you found one
yeah.
and you created a solution that they couldn't wait. Whereas my product was, that sounds interesting and a little scary. Maybe I'll try it and see if I like it. Right.
Before we continue, I'd like to suggest two things. Firstly, if this is the first time you're tuning in, I'd love for you to subscribe and hear the next story in a week. And second, if you feel you could do with a little more fearless pricing content, look in the show notes for the link to the popular, short, and sometimes funny biweekly newsletter. That's it. Let's get back to the show.
And they weren't coming to the community for my expertise. Although my expertise was involved in creating an environment of psychological safety, right? That's not how I pitched it. And it's not something that everybody's really kind of in tune with necessarily. When you're shopping for a
Mm,
community, you kind of want them to be nice, but that's not the sales point that you're looking for when you get there. And so I didn't really have anything. It didn't look like I had anything to offer because what I
mm,
was doing was community management, right? They didn't join the community to get access to my expertise. They joined the community to get access to each other and that in those environments. And so creating the environment was where my skill set was, which wasn't something that was easy to give a sales pitch for or that people were search scanning for, right? Oh, I want a
yeah,
community with psychological safety. Like that's nobody's looking for that, right? And I could try to use the language and
yeah.
that kind of thing, but
I'm,
it
I'm
wasn't the
searching.
need, right? This is something that's a benefit. Maybe they could try it and experiment with it. And so I think that's where, another layer of struggle happened for me and for my community in the way that I have set it up.
I mean, it is the thing with safety, right? Nobody scans for a romantic partner saying, "I'm looking for a relationship where I won't get hit in the face." You know.
Right, exactly.
But yeah, it in a community setting, it takes some doing on
Hmm.
the internet these days.
Right.
It's a job. It needs firm boundaries. It needs an underlying philosophy. It needs a lot of care, a lot of understanding that people have good days and bad days, but still, right?
Hmm.
I fully understand that. Also, I was involved in increasing the price at multiple other communities, not mine. So, an American network, let's say networking group, and an Australian one. And in both cases, they wanted to tell the members, okay, so we had our fun at $10 or whatever. This is not working. We have to do something about this. And in both cases, they went with costs because we just got a new server, because we got this, we got that. We had to pay for. Look, that can work if you're selling strawberry ice cream and everybody knows that strawberries have gone up, okay? But in a community like this, and there's hundreds of people in there, and we're all nobody cares. Nobody cares about the cost. You can raise the price, but not with that argumentation.
No.
Nobody cares.
You need to, I'm getting more for, you've raised the price so that I can have these fabulous things.
Yes, and continue having it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise, it's like a hairdresser getting an MBA and then increasing the price.
Right.
I mean, I get it. It's good for you. I'm glad you did it. It has nothing to do with the service that you're providing to me.
Right.
So no,
Yep.
I'm not paying anymore because I'm getting the same value, right?
Yep.
When you do something like this, and by the way, both of these price increases were successful, so people didn't run away screaming. It's about, like you said, talking about the benefit and usually highlighting things that are benefits that people haven't been seeing as benefits before. Oh yeah, right. And then maybe boosting some of these, so it was, more seminars that will be enabled by this fund, or an increased number of specialty groups where people can find similar people. Oh yeah, that would be nice to have more of, right? Okay, fine. And how long have you been for experimenting for free?
Oh, so I was at, as I started to experiment, I would probably went 6 months to a year with, and I started with just 3 co-working sessions and now we have like 20, right? So it was just dipping our toe in and that kind of thing. And then expanded sessions and then went. So I think it was 6 months to a year of refining that, which was more than I needed, but I was working full time at a corporate job. So this was way side gig and there was no money
Yeah.
associated, so it was just a little bit of dabbling and took the format and brought it into the corporate environment. It's a really nice model for a corporate environment, that kind of thing. And did all, I was all over the board. It wasn't like I was laser focused on this is what I'm going to develop. It was a lot of like experimentation and what might this look like. So I think 6 months to a year, and then grandfathered in anybody who had been participating. And I have volunteer hosts who run the sessions. I'm not going to run, our 3:30 in the morning for me session for the Europeans, right? That's not going to happen. So all
Good.
those people don't pay. And those are the most, dedicated folks, right? Sometimes if you have a certain number of your true fans, right, you could do a premium product for them and make a living and have that intro still be free or low cost. So there was another kind of layer of struggle there. So then I started charging, and so then you're in a session and some people are being charged and some people aren't. And then I raised the price, and and I grandfathered in the $10 a month folks, right? Because I don't want to raise the price on them. I didn't do here's the added value. I am raising the price on you. And then there's people who are free, $10, $20. And if they start talking about it and then talk to each other, right, I have this other like kind of layer of difficulty. And then if one of my volunteer hosts doesn't show up, I'm in a panic because a paying customer might have, had a negative experience. What am I going to do? Yell at the volunteer? I mean, you have a conversation and all of that, and these are all lovely people. They care, but it's not the same kind of you
Life
can't take the
happens.
same kind of leeway with them that you would with a paid employee. And if I looked at paying them, and then the price was astronomical. So compared to where I started. So if you
Yeah.
looked, if I had started with what it actually costs to run, including human power, $10 was ridiculous. It was absolutely ridiculous.
It
So
is. There's a way that this can be done that I've seen. It's called the cover price. And the way you do it is you deliberately present the price as just a tick, just something that is not really important. The way I found out about it was a long time ago. Before Croatia got into the EU, we were considered a developing nation. Okay. As a developing nation, we got books for free from the Sabre Foundation, the American Sabre Foundation. On a Saturday, you could go to a national library and they would wheel in about a wagon load of new books. These were shiny new books which had, Sabre Foundation not for resale printed on, stamped on. But other than that, they were perfect. You could get like a 400-page encyclopedia with illustrations for like $2. Everything was $2. Everything, any book that you like, you could take as many as you liked for $2 each. And everybody understood that this is not the price of the book, right? It's a cover price. It's just here so that it doesn't really pay for somebody to get free toilet paper, right?
Right.
For that, it would be too expensive. For anything else, it's a wonderful opportunity to get good books. These were mostly textbooks. So I got textbooks for all of the things that I ever wanted, right? From there, as much as I could carry, I could carry home because, $2 a book, who cares? So in this way, sometimes you can get away with charging $10, $20 for something that is high value and still have people see it as high value. If you don't make the effort to do that, and most people don't even know it's an option, then you're basically telling something about the value with your price, right?
Right.
You don't
Right.
go to a dollar store and expect to get something worth more than a dollar for that dollar, right?
Right.
If this is not addressed, if this is not something that the community understands, is basically just don't waste my time $10
Right.
or your own, right? If you're going to be a member, be a member. But it's not about the value. Then it is about the value.
Right.
Sometimes people ask me, and what if somebody is as good as I am in whatever you do, but charges half the price, right? Then it's not going to be seen as good as you by the client,
Mm-hmm.
because uh, the audience here that we're talking today are mostly specialists, experts. These are people who know how to do complicated stuff, and complicated stuff is opaque to clients. So, objectively, even if I could clone you, so your skills and everything, and it's not the same price, people will not see it as the same thing. Even if it is, it
Right.
doesn't matter. It's
Right.
not going to be seen as such. It's not going to be bought as such. It's not going to be perceived as such, right? Co-working community at $10 and a co-working community at 40 will not be seen as two communities that are comparable, although they might be identical,
Yeah. Right.
right? Because the price is part of the language. The price is part of the brand,
Yes. Yes.
and this is why it's very risky to do what most people are doing, which is copying other people's prices,
Right.
because you wouldn't copy my logo, right? Because that would be pointless. It's not saying anything about you, right? But you might say, oh, $40, yeah, that makes sense. I'll just take that, right? Just like a logo is developed on something, it's not just pretty colors. Price is more than numbers, and it has to be developed on something. So anyway,
Yeah.
cover price is possible, but you have to work for it. And other than that,
Right.
you're saying something. How did you solve the deliverable part? So what you're charging for things now, right? The community is free, but you're charging for things. What are you charging for?
Right.
What are the deliverables,
The
hardware?
only thing I'm charging for that's based directly in the community right now is we occasionally run sprints. So we'll do a 5-hour sprint on a weekend day or a 2-week sprint, 2 hours a day. And we just kind of cycle through those periodically because those take a lot more actual, that was easier for me to charge for because there were deliverables, which I also
Yeah.
probably started way too low. So that's the only piece that's in there. And then my freelance marketing is its own kind of bucket,
Hmm.
but it goes kind of under that. I'm working with creatives and people like that. So kind of fits under that umbrella. Basically, it's for my tax purposes, like which company do I put this kind of the money in? This is my kind of marketing community creative kind of bucket. So I work specifically, the freelance marketing I do is specifically in the wellness industry. And so not everybody in my creatives community is in wellness, that kind of thing. So I prospect for the freelance marketing very differently. I don't
Mhm.
use Go Done's co-working community as part of that funnel. Those are two totally separate funnels.
Yeah, because some of my colleagues talk about you can come into somebody's consciousness as a thinker or as a doer.
Hmm.
And you can come as a thinker and become a doer in their eyes. But it's very hard to come as a doer and become a thinker.
Ah.
It doesn't work that way. So if I come in as a English tutor in somebody's home and I see a leaky pipe and I say I can fix that, maybe they'll let me, maybe they'll pay me for it. If I come in as a handyman and say, "Oh, can I also teach your kids English?" No, probably not,
Right.
right? This was simplified, but it's quite a hard and fast rule when it comes to freelancing. I know not everybody sees themselves if they're self-employed or working for themselves in general. They don't see themselves as freelancers. I think calling a freelance lawyer freelance lawyer, I basically stab them in the eye. It's an older concept than the word of freelancing, but in general, it's very, very hard to do this. When we give ourselves the prerequisite of saying what the deliverables are in order to charge, we basically lock ourselves in the doer part, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because
Yes.
there's a number of people that pay me a retainer, but that retainer is not for a number of hours or a number of documents, or no, that retainer is for me to be there when they need me, because sometimes they don't know when they're going to need to negotiate a price or this or that or the other, or ask me something about value communication. So I'm going to talk about this with this dude. How do I tell him this without, scaring him off or something like this? So I mean, you can say that this conversation is a deliverable, but it may or may not happen. And if it doesn't happen, I was still available, and that's what the product is. But then they see me as the thinker, and this is fine. I had access. Even if something happens once a couple of months, it usually covers like 6 months of membership or something like that. So it's not a problem, and they know this is going to happen. But it's not about deliverables. It's about the potential. But if I started talking to them as I'm a deliverable guy, I'm going to get you, as you said, 6 social media posts or 3 templates, or it would be very hard for me to then upgrade this into a different kind of thing, right?
Right. Right. I like that
Cool.
analogy. And I certainly led with product.
It's what we're taught, right?
Well,
It's
I didn't even value my own thinker aspect. I only saw the product. The thinker is what generates the product, and the product's what generates income. I didn't take the perspective of, all of my best strengths are the intangibles. It is the leadership skills. It is the human
Mhm.
insight. It is in that analysis and the environment creation and all of that. None of that is like something that you hand over. And so I think if I had looked at not only what it took to run a co-working community in terms of hours per week and Zoom rooms and whatever, if I factored in the hosts and their time and then somehow figured out a way to kind of value my skill set and what I brought and set that price, that cover price, at least in my own head, I don't think I ever would have gone at $10 an hour,
Yeah.
because the actual cost, I think, do you put that together, it would have been so much astronomically higher, and it would have changed my own perception of what I was offering. I think
Yeah.
what my perception of what I was offering wasn't matching what was actually happening, because I devalued what I brought to the table and didn't take into account what these fabulous hosts were bringing to the table as well. So
Yes.
I don't know if you have any ideas about how to take, you mentioned something that so much of what, of those intangibles that we bring to the table are, make it, are very opaque to the consumer. But
Yeah.
do you have a way to look at, like, how do I value my leadership skills? What dollar amount do I put to that? Do you have any input on that?
I think it's enablement. What you're selling potential, you're selling enablement, you're selling the possibility that hours of work turn into something, not into, busy work. Because I don't know how it works, but when you're co-working, the distractions go away, you get less urges, you get stuff done. And I used to struggle a lot with getting stuff done. So I understand what this is. This is a cocoon, right? This is a pod. This is something, a service where you can crawl. And there's a reason why people go and write their stories in a Starbucks. It's not about the
Yes.
coffee. They can make the coffee at home. It's about the cocoon. It's about the
How the environment
environment.
shapes your behavior.
Exactly. Your service here, as far as I can see it, is basically enablement. I'm not going to do this for you. I'm just going to give you an opportunity to actually do what you want to do. So that's how I would put it. And maybe even maybe I wouldn't be the one putting it like this. So maybe I copyright two sentences, and then you leave people's testimonials, and you say, and people say, I've done this, I've done that. I haven't finished my whatever novel in 6 years, and now I've finished it in 6 months. I don't know what people do there, but you will know their testimonials, you will know their stories, because you have the connection that cost you, right? That connection cost you.
Mm-hmm.
However, you have it. You understand why people are there. I'm a big believer in representing value via something that is called, so this is a biological term, but it's a peacock's feather, because peacocks used to confound Darwin. He hated peacocks because how, if animals are trying to survive and stuff, how do you get a peacock? So he
Right.
can't run with that humongous tail. He can't hide. He can barely fly. So it is hampering the male peacock severely. So how does this animal survive? And there's a theory developed out of that. Anyway, it's a handicap, but it's a voluntary handicap. So his message to hens is, look how much unnecessary stuff I can put on myself and still be alive. My genes must be perfect,
Right.
right? A male smaller tail with less to show for, they're simply not able to tie their wings behind their back, so to say, so much, right?
Right.
And your commitment to these people, it's a handicap. You've said so, not in so many words, but what you described is, I can't do it. I,
Right.
right? I can't charge my mom. I can't charge my friends, and these people are my friends. So it's a handicap. However, it's a voluntary handicap, and that's why it's impressive. So handicaps are not impressive. Voluntary handicaps are. Now, I've never tried walking in high heels, but I hear it's quite a handicap.
It definitely is.
And it looks impressive. Having really, really long hair is a handicap. Okay, I can wash and dry this in like under 30 seconds. Somebody foregoing that is doing a voluntary handicap. So it's not just animals, it's definitely humans. What we call impressive, if you look past it a little bit, you will see whatever people feel like it's impressive, an Oscar, or a really fancy car, or a cellar full of wine that you'll never drink. These are all basically voluntary handicaps. Big muscles. So let's do something male, right? That's a lot of time, boredom, and pain, dude. That's kudos. I couldn't do that to myself, right? So I think that the answer of what you asked me, I think the answer lies somewhere in showcasing that that you have chosen to have a relationship with these people. And that shows that you actually care and can afford to care. And this is a big thing, because if you just say, hello, welcome to my community, I care about all of you, it's not the same thing. And if you show your connection to these people, then not only can other people see, oh, there's somebody who actually cares, somebody who can actually afford to care, which means that you're successful.
Well, it feels good to my ego. No, I hear what you're saying, and I really like looking at it that way. Although I do feel like, well, and this is again part of my problem with charging, I feel like I get as much from the community as I give to it. So we care about each other, and I get pumped up from. I had somebody in a session say somebody else was asking for something, and somebody else said, I really approve of Heather getting paid for what she provides. Somebody was kind of asking for something for free, not thinking about it, because guess where I set the price of everything at, right? And somebody was nice enough to speak up that way. So I think for me, it all gets muddled in when the community is the product. But I do like the idea of that community maybe being as a showpiece, that I don't have to charge for it, that I do run it, it's my peacock's feather, right? Which it is. It's fabulous. I don't have to run a community. And so maybe that can color some of my freelance work, maybe, or the sprints that I run within that community. If you're interested in co-working with a community of creatives and you're a very nice and kind person with a good sense of humor, you can find me at gogodone.com, and you can learn about the community there. We have a free Slack group, so you can come and lurk a little bit, but most of the action happens in the co-working sessions, and there's a free link to the Google Calendar and all those goodies there. And then if you want to connect professionally in any other way, I'm most active on LinkedIn. And so you can just search for my last name. It's unusual, Chavin, and I should pop right up. Or you can look for GoGo Done. It's also on LinkedIn as well. Thank you so much, Philip.
Thanks for listening. If you would like to hear more, simply subscribe. Until next time, your host, Filip Vojic.